Hello everyone, and welcome to the Resource Pool. I'm Sutcliffe, also known as the indescribable horror seen in Drawn to the Dark Dimension, and today we are discussing the history of one of my favorite heroes, Viserai, Runeblood. Viserai is a Runeblade hero with 4 intellect and 40 health, with the text, whenever you play a Runeblade card, if you have played a non-attack action this turn, create a runechant token. These runechants are the key to Viserai's gameplay, as they are the only way the hero could originally do arcane damage. Several cards from Arcane Rising, such as Amplify the Arknight and Arknight Ascendancy, also have their cost reduced by the amount of runechants you control. There is a lot of tension between Viserai's hero text and the actual Runeblade cards printed in Arcane Rising. Ideally, a player could play a powerful non-attack action such as an Enchanting Melody or Oath of the Arknight, followed by a series of more cheap Runeblade non-attacks, or Runeblade attacks with the keyword Go Again, that throw a consistent stream of arcane and physical damage that can attack your opponents from several angles. That sounds great, right? Well, unfortunately, of the 15 non-equipment Runeblade cards introduced, only 6 of them had Go Again, and only one of those was an attack. And what was that attack? Oh right, Rune Flash. A card that requires you to already control free runechants in order to have any decent rate on the card. On top of the lack of offensive pressure available to Viserai, the class also blocked poorly, with the vast majority of non-attack cards only blocking for 2 instead of the normal 3. This nerf was originally only given to 3 of the starting 8 classes. Mechanologists had no block item cards, but made up for it with sheer consistency and Go Again on every attack, thanks to the boost mechanic. Ninjas, who could also create extremely long combat chains that threatened on-hit effects that allowed you to play even more cards. And Ranger, which was, well, really bad at the beginning of the game. You could make massive arrows, but the majority of the on-hits didn't matter, unlike the Nightmare Azalea is today, and it was pretty inconsistent. So while an exception to this argument, I feel my point still stands. All of these factors led the Viserai decks that saw results to play as a one-turn kill type deck, or OTK. Essentially, you would block what you could while slowly building a couple runechants a turn with Read the Runes, and occasionally even utilizing your hero ability, until you could play a Slogism followed by a free Ninth Bladed with Blood Oath, or Arknight Ascendancy, backed by enough runechants to hopefully kill your opponent. Better hope they don't have too many blues. This style of play saw moderate success, but had a hard time standing up to the best decks at the time, Dash and Dorinthia. However, this all started to change come the next set, Crucible of War. Crucible of War was the first supplemental set of the game, aimed at bolstering every class and the old heroes, rather than providing an innovative draft experience. And oh boy, were they really cooking something when they made the Runeblade cards. LSS saw the design flaws inherent in the Arcane Rising rendition of Viserai, and decided to give him some better ways to extend his combo chains to create as many runechants from his hero ability as possible. The first of these was Meet and Greet, a Runeblade attack that could gain Go Again, providing you've done arcane damage this turn. While this isn't an amazing card by today's standards, it was a decent starting attack at the time. Next was Rattlebones, a Runeblade non-attack that allows you to banish an attack from your graveyard and play it until the end of turn. However, this Majestic also has the ability to be played as an instant if you have dealt arcane damage this turn. And since Rattlebones says Go Again, you can net yourself an action point even if your previous attack did not have it. And finally, the second most influential Viserai card from Crucible was Maverian Skies, a non-attack action that gave your next Runeblade attack Go Again, as well as creating 3, 2, or 1 runechants whenever that attack hit, depending on which pitch color you played, for the low price of nothing. Maverian Skies finally gave opponents a reason to use the valuable cards in their hand to block Viserai's attack, as well as providing an easy way to guarantee you can make at least 2 attacks in any given turn. While these upgrades did not turn our edgy undead soldier into the best deck in the format, it did give him the tools needed to be semi-competitive, and yet that's not all Crucible of War did. The set also gave Viserai Bloodsheaf Skeleta, a card that would become very important with the release of the next set, Monarch. With Monarch, LSS introduced the Light and Shadow talents to the game, along with it the second Runeblade, Chain Bound by Shadow. Because Chain was a Shadow Runeblade, most of the set was dedicated to bolstering his card pool, meaning that Viserai only got 5 new cards from the set. One of these cards was Sonata Arcanix, a non-attack action that costs XX that allows you to reveal the top X plus free cards of your deck, and for every non-attack reveal, you may put a revealed attack into your hand and deal that much arcane damage to your opponent. On the surface, this seems fine. It's resource intensive, luck dependent, and remember that we still only have one Runeblade attack with unconditional go again. However, in tandem with Bloodsheath Skeleton, the card had insane potential. The Skeleton is a chest equipment with 2 block and temper, along with the ability to crack it at instant speed to make your next non-attack and attack cost 1 less to play for each rune chant you control. While this was probably designed with the idea in mind that you could play a pump spell and Ninth Blade of the Blood Oath early, with Sonata Arcanix's XX cost, it allowed Viserai to dig 10 to 12 cards deep sometimes, refilling his hand and presenting a strong offense. But Go Again is still severely limited, so surely this interaction will be okay, right? In terms of the competitive scene, Viserai was far outclassed by Chain, who had access to more legendary equipment, easier ways of giving Go Again to his attacks, and being able to play cards from the Banished Zone, effectively increasing the hero's hand size far beyond the limits of what should have been allowed. OTK Viserai variants had some modest success, but the aggro versions had a hard time competing with their shadowy counterpart. You might have noticed by now that the Runeblade class went on for 4 straight sets of support after its initial introduction. The class has a nasty reputation for being the most busted in the game, and I really do believe that has a lot to do with the fact that there were just so many cards being printed for the class in the early game. Oh, and the fact that Chain and Briar had some of the most powerful hero abilities ever in the game, so much so that the latter received the first and only power level errata in Flesh and Blood's history. Tales of Aria was certainly a set. Some call it the most powerful set in the game's history, and I have a really hard time arguing against that until I remember Zen and Arnivore existed at the same time. But yet again, the new Runeblade Briar, being talented meant that Viserai really only walked away with 2 notable tools, but oh boy, were they important. Rosetta Thorn has an infamous reputation for a reason, and has a serious claim to being the most broken weapon in the game. For a single resource, this weapon swings for 2 physical damage and 2 arcane damage, giving Viserai an incredibly powerful and resource-efficient chain ender that also represents evasive damage. Most opponents will only run Arcane Barrier 1 into Runeblade, because every instance of a rune chant's 1 damage can be prevented as many times as you want with AB1. But because Rosetta Thorn presents 2 damage from 1 single source, 1 damage will always be leaked without a prevention effect or AB2. Along with Rosetta Thorn, Viserai also gained access to Spellbound Creepers, a legendary equipment that allows you to play a non-attack at instant speed if you have attacked or blocked with an attack this turn. This lets you net action points by playing cards with Go Again or sneakily add more rune chants to the middle of the combat chain with Read the Runes. While Briar and Chain were still far outclassing their predecessor, the groundwork for Viserai's takeoff was laid. Everfest was the next supplemental set, and it provided a ton of staples to just about every class. Wild Ride, Blade Runner, and Read the Glide Path are just a few that see play, and none of them are even majestic. However, I believe that Runeblade walked away as the victor of the set. In addition to 2 new cards that could easily generate rune chants in Runeblood Incantation and Vexing Quillhand, Viserai also got 2 most powerful cards available to him to this day. Swarming Gloomveil is a free power Runeblade attack that gets Go Again if you've made an aura this turn, plus 1 power if you've made 2, and if you've made 3, then the Gloomveil gets the ability, when this hits a hero, they cannot prevent arcane damage this turn. This is without a doubt the best chain starter in Viserai, because as long as you've played a non-attack this turn, thanks to Viserai's hero ability, you will make a rune chant and automatically have Go Again when the Gloomveil is played. If a Mauberian Skies is backing the attack, you can order your on-hit triggers so Skies creates 3 rune chants first, and now your opponent suddenly can't prevent arcane this turn. Meanwhile, you've only used 2 cards. In the past, this on-hit effect would not be too impactful, because you might only have 1 or 2 rune chants to throw at your opponent, 2 or 4 on a Mordred Tide turn. However, Revel in Runeblood changes that. For 0 resources, as long as you've played a non-attack and an attack this turn, Revel in Runeblood gives you 4 rune chants, but all rune chants will be destroyed at the end of the turn. This card allows Viserai to have a final offensive push in a turn, where you can easily swing your weapon or an Amplified Arcanite for 9 to 11 damage, only spending limited resources. On top of this, Revel creates a good deal of rune chants that can be used for Bloodsheath Skeleton's ability on a Sonata Arcanix to dig even deeper into the deck and fish out Go Again attacks to ruin someone's day. Everfest also started a slight design shift for Runeblades, where instead of every card relying on rune chants and playing non-attacks and attacks, several of the new cards cared about auras. We even got several cards with on-hit effects like the Gloom Veil, Runic Reclamation, Drowning Dire, and Rika Corruption all have effects that give the opponent a reason to block your attacks when a Mavrian Skies isn't at play. Chain and Briar was still on a tear in Classic Constructed before Everfest, with each having cards banned from their pools to try to wrangle them in. Seeds of Agony for Chain, and Ball Lightning for Briar caused the heroes to resent too much easy damage even in the face of strong fatigue decks like Oldham Grandfather of Eternity. With the introduction of Bravo Star of the Show, or Starvo, aggressive decks had a hard time keeping up. Starvo could throw more damage, disrupt better, and was more consistent than any hero the game had ever seen, with only one true counter, the hero Prism, Sculptor of Arclight. Starvo suffered several bans, but was still far and away the best deck in the game as the months went on. However, this meta was different from the previous ones because Viserai was actually doing well. So well in fact that he became the first ever hero to Living Legend out of the Blitz format, and was one of the 2 heroes targeted by an April banned and restricted announcement. This announcement banned the cards Awakening and Autumn's Touch to hurt Starvo, and finally banned Bloodchief Skeleton from Viserai, ending the Sonata Arcanix combo and effectively removing the hero from significant relevance within the meta. The curtains would close as Chain and Starvo would reach Living Legend status in late June 2022, followed by Prism in August of the same year, becoming the first heroes we've rotated out of the format. With the release of Uprising, a more aggressive deck and Vi Rising Rebellion debuted along with a new ice hero aimed to slow games down, Icelander Stormbind. Suddenly, Viserai's attacks were outclassed. His combo's too resource intensive, and without the Arcanix and Skeleton combo, the hero just could not produce enough damage to race Vi or Briar. Briar was still performing well in large part due to Channel Mount Heroic, allowing her to throw large attacks even when being disrupted by the ice heroes. But with a new supplemental set coming soon, perhaps Viserai could be saved, just like in Everfest. Dynasty was an all-time low in terms of design for the Runeblade class. Only one card, Blessing of the Occult, was decent for Viserai, fitting much more into the old OTK style of deck he played back in Arcane Rising. The other cards such as Annals of Sutcliffe, Cryptic Crossing, and Deathly Duet had the clunky design of needing both an attack and non-attack pitched to them to get the best value. Not only can you not guarantee that you'll have both in your hand at the same time, it also means you kept 2 cards and an arsenal, or 3 cards in hand against an ice hero, which was unlikely, or an aggro hero, which means you took a good deal of damage, to play a mediocre card with no breakpoints. On top of getting no new toys, Vi and Briar were still the best aggro decks by far in Classic Constructed without Starvo or Prism there to slow them down, which led to both Stubby Hammers and Belittle being banned from the format. The release of Outsiders did nothing to help out Viserai. Lexi was finally a potent hero who could slow down the game with her ice arrows, and Azalea became a nightmare who could completely shut off Viserai for turns at a time. Despite this, a Royal Viserai list did win a calling using Crown of Dominion, to start out with a gold token that would be used with cash-in to draw 2 cards and have a strong combo turn. But the list did not see much success past that event. The next set, Dusk Till Dawn, was the return of the Light and Shadow Talons. Viserai only got 3 cards. One of them, Runic Reckoning, is a mostly free pump spell that can help the hero make more threatening attacks, but it just was not impactful enough for the time. The next card, Bequest the Vast Beyond, was actually a new specialization for Viserai. A 0-cost non-attack that makes your next Runeblade attack action cost 1 less for every rune chant you control. This card largely served as a story beat to show Viserai visiting the land of the Old Ones, Ia Raphael. It also may have been an attempt to replace what he lost with Bloodchief Skeleton. Except, Viserai only really cared about the reduction for non-attacks, and so the card was never used in serious competitive play. The last card was the legendary chess piece, Dyadic Carapace. The Carapace was very simple in its design, with Temper 2 and Arcane Barrier 2. The way the card is designed, only half of it will be relevant when not playing against a battle mage wizard. It is a good addition to the inventory, but did not make waves in the hero's viability. The disappointment of Dusk Till Dawn, followed by Briar reaching Living Legend status and taking Rosetta Thorn with her, was the death knell for aggro Viserai. He could throw out some damage, but the hero was easily disrupted and there was really no reason to block except for preserving life totals, because no on-hit effects other than Mavrian Skies actually mattered. Then with both Bright Lights and Heavy Hitters providing Viserai extremely mediocre cards in Sonata Phantasma and Sonata Galaxia respectively, the former of which just serves as another story card. The only way to reasonably play Viserai anymore was OTK. The hero went nearly an entire year, gaining under 50 Living Legend points. At this point, Viserai needed a miracle. After the release of Part the Mistveil and the overwhelming dominance of Zen, Tamer of Purpose, LSS decided to ban pretty much any card that can easily draw you more cards and has Go Again, including Cash-In and Art of War. While the loss of Cash-In was the death of the Royal Viserai archetype, the Art of War ban finally meant that certain aggro decks couldn't kill you outright with minimal interaction. With the next set being Runeblade focused, there was a chance Viserai could be freed from his shackles at last. Rosetta, unlike every other talent-focused set, actually had a lot of generic support for the classes, and Viserai came out like a bandit. Rune Rager Swarm is a new go-again attack that when paired with Malefic Incantation, means you can still create a decent combat chain, even if you have a dreaded Runeblade hand, with no non-attacks. Deadwood Dirge is an amazing way to start your turn, and can at the very least guarantee that a Rune Flash, Amplify the Arknight, or Drawn to the Dark Dimension can be played for free while still threatening significant points of damage by creating free rune chants and having Go Again. Face Purgatory is a new legendary headpiece that makes the opponent discard a card and lets you draw a card if you block with the equipment, an attack, and a non-attack. This gives Viserai some actual defensive utility and disruption that can slow down an opponent's turn and let you try to fix a subpar hand. In addition to the sheer consistency Rosetta enables for Viserai, LSS finally went back to the designs which they started Neverfest, and gave the class important on-hit effects. Both Snuff Out and Succumb to Temptation can rip cards from your opponent's hand. When paired with the new card, Machinations the Minion, which gives your next Runeblade attack overpower and Go Again, forces your opponent to make a decision between their equipment and the cards in their hand. Viserai finally could present respectable damage and force the opponent to make difficult choices after they selected their armor. Viserai gained over 200 Living Legend points in the Rosetta season despite the dominance of all three heroes from Part the Mistveil. This dominance continued into the early Hunted season, where he was one of the best ways to outpace the new hero, Syndra, Drakai of Retribution. His good matchups with the new heroes in popular decks such as Assassin is what led to Viserai claiming dominance during the 2025 Road to National season, and becoming Living Legend on February 24th, 2025. Viserai Runeblood is a hero that suffered from the early design philosophies of the game and eventually used them to his advantage. This hero helped create the modern interpretation of Runeblade design and serves as a great lesson for game balance. So long, my friend, and may you do well in the Living Legend format.